Take a look at the image on your screen. Job application, resume screening, phone screen interview. Now notice what shows up at almost every stage. AI, AI. And only at the very end, a human. That graphic is an exaggeration. It's a simplified version of how many modern hiring systems actually operate. Not everywhere, not for every role, but far more often than most job seekers realize. Today, AI isn't some futuristic add-on to hiring, it's infrastructure. It's the system companies rely on to manage volume, reduce manual work, and make faster decisions, especially on the front end of the hiring process. And whether you like it or not, if you're applying for jobs today, you are interfacing with AI long before you ever interact with the recruiter. In this video, I'm going to walk you through where AI actually shows up in the hiring process, what it's doing at each stage, why companies are using it, and what this realistically means for you as a job seeker without fear, hype, or scare tactics. The goal here isn't to make you anxious, it's to make you informed, because once you understand the system, you can move through it much more intentionally. Before we dive in, if you're a seasoned professional navigating today's job market and you want clear, honest, recruiter-level insight into what's actually happening behind the scenes, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every week, I break down the hiring process without fluff, fear tactics, or outdated advice. One of the biggest misconceptions about AI in hiring is that it's some kind of future state experiment. It's not. For many companies, AI is already embedded into the day-to-day mechanics of how candidates are evaluated, especially at the front end of the process. Anywhere there is volume, repetition, or potential for human error, organizations are looking for ways to automate and standardize decision-making. That's why AI shows up so early. Not because companies are trying to be cold or impersonal, but because hiring at scale is messy, time-consuming, and expensive. AI can work around the clock. It doesn't get fatigued. It applies the same criteria consistently. From an operational standpoint, it makes sense. And this is where context matters. If we haven't met yet, my name is Chuks Agada. Most people know me as Dr. A. I'm an executive career coach and former executive recruiter. I work with experienced professionals navigating senior level interviews, leadership transitions, and nonlinear career paths, especially in situations where how you tell your story matters just as much as what's on your resume. Through my work at Career Calibration, I've helped directors, VPs, executives, and senior leaders move through the hiring process with clarity, even when their career timelines didn't look perfect on paper. Earlier in my career, I also led recruiting teams inside organizations where we used AI to streamline high-volume hiring, reviewing resumes, conducting outreach, even screening candidates before a human ever stepped in. So when I talk about how AI is used in the hiring process, this isn't speculation. It's something I've seen from the inside and something I now help job seekers navigate from the outside. And that perspective is important because AI can absolutely make hiring more efficient. But efficiency always changes the candidate experience. And if you don't understand where AI is involved, it's easy to misinterpret what's actually happening or to internalize outcomes that have very little to do with your ability or value. That's what we're going to unpack next. The moment you hit apply, AI often enters the picture. For many companies, that application doesn't go straight to a recruiter's inbox. Instead, it's fed into an applicant tracking system, or ATS, that uses AI-driven logic to parse your resume, extract keywords, compare your experience against the job description, and rank your application relative to others. This is sometimes called stack ranking. Your resume isn't just being reviewed, it's being scored. And in some systems, AI will even suggest edits or optimizations internally, flagging whether a candidate appears strong, moderate, or low fit before a human ever looks at it. For companies receiving hundreds, sometimes thousands of applications per role, this isn't optional, it's survival. This is the stage most job seekers misunderstand the most. AI doesn't read resumes the way humans do. It looks for pattern matches, skill frequency, role alignment, tenure consistency, and relevance to the requisitions criteria. If your experience is strong but poorly framed, AI may never surface your resume for review. This is why overly creative formatting backfires. Dense paragraphs hurt clarity, and vague language works against you. From the company's perspective, AI makes resume screening faster, more consistent, and less prone to fatigue. From the job seeker's perspective, it can feel cold, impersonal, and unforgiving. Now, once a company has narrowed the field, AI often becomes the coordinator. This is the stage where many candidates start interacting with automation, even if they don't always realize it. AI is commonly used to send outreach messages to candidates, follow up automatically, and handle scheduling for phone screens or introductory conversations. From the company's perspective, this solves a very real problem. Recruiters spend a significant amount of time emailing back and forth, coordinating calendars, rescheduling calls, and answering repetitive questions. AI removes friction from that process. It works instantly, it doesn't miss follow-ups, and it keeps the hiring process moving. But in many organizations, it doesn't stop there. AI is also increasingly used to conduct the initial screening conversation. This may look like a structured phone screen, a chatbot-style interview, or a recorded set of questions where your responses are captured and analyzed. You answer a series of questions, the system records your responses, and then it evaluates them against predefined criteria. In some cases, the AI is looking at what you say, your experience, your examples, your role alignment. In other cases, it's also analyzing how you say it, your pacing, clarity, consistency, and communication style. After that, the system doesn't make the final decision, but it does make a recommendation. It flags candidates who appear to meet the criteria, it deprioritizes others, and it sends that information to the recruiting or hiring team. For companies managing high application volume, this can dramatically reduce time to hire. It allows recruiters to focus on deeper conversations later in the process rather than spending hours on early stage screens. But from the candidate's perspective, this is often the first moment where the process feels different. You may feel like you're speaking into a void. You may not be sure who or what is on the other end, and feedback is often minimal or not existent. And that disconnect is important to understand because at this stage, you're not being evaluated the same way you would be in a live human conversation. You're being evaluated for a signal, not a story. Clarity matters more than charisma. Structure matters more than nuance, and relevance matters more than range. That distinction becomes critical as we move deeper into the hiring process. Now, once candidates move past the initial screening stage, this is where AI can become much more visible and for some people, much more uncomfortable. In certain hiring processes, the next step isn't a conversation with the recruiter, it's an AI-driven video interview or assessment. You're asked to record responses to a set of predefined questions, often on your own time. There's no interview on the other end, no real-time interaction, just you, the camera, and the prompts. From the company's perspective, this solves another scalability problem. Instead of coordinating dozens or hundreds of live interviews, AI allows organizations to standardize early-stage interviews and review candidates more efficiently. Every candidate is asked the same questions. Responses are captured consistently, and comparisons become easier. But here's what many job seekers don't realize. These tools aren't just capturing what you say. In some cases, they're also evaluating how you say it. Depending on the platform and configuration, AI-assisted interview tools may analyze things like the structure of your responses, how directly you answer the question, your pacing and clarity, speech patterns and vocal inflection. In addition to video interviews, AI is often embedded into assessments that evaluate cognitive skills, situational judgment, or role-specific competencies. Again, the goal from the employer side is efficiency and consistency. They're trying to reduce bias introduced by human fatigue, mood, or inconsistency across interviews, but the experience for candidates can feel very different from a traditional interview. There's no room to ask clarifying questions, no opportunity to build rapport, no chance to course correct in real time, and that changes how you need to show up. These systems are not evaluating conversational chemistry, they're evaluating alignment. They're looking for clear examples, direct answers, and relevance to the role, not storytelling flair or improvisation. This is especially important for experienced professionals. If you're used to dynamic conversational interviews where nuance and relationship building play a role, these AI-driven stages can feel limiting or even unnatural, but They're becoming more common, particularly earlier in the process, and particularly for roles where companies want to narrow the field quickly. And understanding this truly matters because when candidates don't realize they're being evaluated by an AI-assisted system, they often misinterpret what went wrong. They assume that they didn't connect. They assume they weren't compelling enough, or worse, they internalize the outcomes as a reflection of their capability, when in reality, the evaluation criteria were entirely different. And that brings us to a bigger pattern that's starting to emerge across hiring process. So I'm going to pause here for a minute. If this video is resonating, please do me a favor and tap that like button. It really helps with the algorithm in reaching other professionals who could benefit from this video. And a quick question for you in this video. Before watching this video, did you realize how much of the early hiring process was already automated? Was that surprising to you, or did you suspect this was happening? Drop a comment below, surprised or not surprised. So I read the comments and I'm curious where you're landing on this. For some candidates, the hiring process now feels like moving through a sequence of automated steps before a human ever enters the picture. Application, screening, phone screen, interview, assessment, and at several of those stages, AI may be involved. That's what people often describe as the AI gauntlet. In certain hiring processes, especially early in the funnel, candidates may not speak with a human until much later, sometimes not until the final stages. This is not always the case. Not every company uses AI in the same way. Not every role is handled this way. Senior level and executive roles in particular tend to involve human judgment early in the process. But even then, AI often still plays a role at the front end. It may be ranking resumes, it may be coordinating outreach, it may be supporting assessments. So while the process isn't fully automated, it isn't fully human either. It's a hybrid, and that's where confusion sets in for many job seekers. When candidates don't realize how much of the early process is automated, it's easy to misread what's actually happening. Silence feels personal, rejection feels final, and delays feel like disinterest. In reality, many of these outcomes are driven by systems designed to manage value and efficiency, not to evaluate the full depth of someone's experience. Understanding this doesn't suddenly fix the process, but it does help you interpret what's actually happening instead of filling in the gaps with assumptions that aren't true. So what does all of this actually mean for you as the job seeker? It means the hiring process has changed, but your value hasn't. AI is not replacing human decision-making in hiring. What it's doing, it's filtering access to humans, and that distinction truly matters. Early in the process, AI is optimizing for clarity, relevance, and efficiency. It's not asking, is this person impressive? It's asking, does the person clearly match what we're looking for right now? That's why vague language, overly broad positioning, or trying to be everything to everyone often backfires. AI rewards specificity, clear role alignment, clear outcomes, clear language. But here's the part many people get wrong. This is not a signal to strip your resume, LinkedIn profile, or interview responses of humanity. And it's not a signal to game the system by stuffing keywords or sounding robotic. The goal is not to perform for AI. The goal is to remove friction so that AI doesn't misunderstand you and then position yourself where human judgment still plays a role. Because once a human enters the process, the evaluation shifts. Context matters again, judgment matters again, story matters again. The candidates who navigate this best aren't the ones trying to beat AI. They're the ones who understand where AI is involved and adjust just enough to get through the front door without losing their voice in the process. And that's the balance you want to strike. So here's what I don't want you to do. So don't strip your resume of personality. Don't chase every keyword blindly. Don't assume rejection equals failure. AI is a tool, not a verdict. And even companies using AI heavily still rely on human judgment at critical points. The goal isn't to beat AI. The goal is to work with the system intelligently while positioning yourself where humans can still see your value. Because at the end of the process, someone still has to say yes. and that decision is still human. So if you're currently navigating a career transition, we'd love to see if we can help. Check out our website at careercalibration.co. I will provide a link in the description below. I look forward to meeting you there. Also, would you like expert job search advice delivered weekly into your inbox? Sign up to join our exclusive email list. Get exclusive insights designed to help you land your next role. Sign up today by clicking on the link below and take control of your job search. And finally, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment below. See you next time. Over and out.